have no place to go.
I saw a place where I can hide you, where no one would ever think of looking for you.
Yeah, it felt, I mean, very, very special. I think, it just helped me so much to get into character because it just felt every day so real. Because it was real. We were shooting right next to the border to Ukraine. So we had, soldiers at our hotel and refugees. And so it was a constant reminder of why we were doing this movie and the importance of doing it.
It is an absolute joy to speak to Sophie Nèlisse, the star of Irena's Vow. Sophie, thank you so much for taking the time to chat with me. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
It is honestly, it is such a special film, and you do such a wonderful job in it. She's an incredible woman. What attracted you to the role?
I think it's because her story still felt so relevant, and to me, she was just so inspiring, and I think everything that she's done is a lesson that everyone nowadays can still learn from, and she showed me a way of doing things, or made me want to change certain things of my life, and so yeah, I think everyone can learn from her, and I felt it was important for me to tell her story.
It sounds like playing her had a real impact on you. I was wondering how you prepare for a role like this because there's so much going on. It's so intense.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely felt like I had to research her life story properly in order to, you know, bring justice to the screen, and I knew that her daughter and people that were close to her were going to watch it, and so it felt important for me to give an accurate representation of the woman that she was. Um, and so I read, there's a book that Dan Gordon, who wrote the script, also wrote. He wrote a story about Irena's life, so I read that, and then found some archives and footage of Irena later in her life giving interviews, and which gave me an idea of, again, just how bright and warm and full of life she still was. I felt that that was something important for me to convey on screen. And then worked with a dialect coach to lock down the Polish accent.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, this is an incredible story, an incredible moment in history. It seems otherworldly, but at the same time, like you mentioned, it also feels very current. What is it about her journey that, in your mind, is so urgent for us to hear today?
Well, I think it's because I mean, still have such critical political climate. We live in a world that's, again, still surrounded by so many wars. And I think that comes from a place of us not being able to accept each other's differences. And we're so quick to judge people by their political beliefs or differences in religions and values. And I think instead of trying to learn from them, we create conflict. And I think she's a great example. She doesn't see people's differences as problems. She tries to be empathetic towards them and learn from them. And so I think if we were all a little bit more like her, we'd live in a much more peaceful environment.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I'd like to ask you, there's something that she says, I think it's her line in the film, but at one point it is stated that sometimes survival means serving dessert. Oh, it's said to her. It's not her line. Can you talk about that moment? What a line like that says to you? What does that mean to you? And how did that inform your performance?
I mean, it's a very touching line, but at the same time, you know, problematic because it says that, sometimes the only way to survive is by not speaking up and not doing anything about all you're witnessing. And although, yes, that's what's going to keep her alive, I think she doesn't agree with that, and she, I think she's smart enough to find a way to keep herself alive, but yet I think being quiet is obviously not the solution. It's a solution to surviving, but again, it's a solution that's very egocentric, and he says it at another point in the movie. It's you have to look at your own 2 feet, you don't look left or right. And I think that's exactly what is so problematic about our society, is that we're so self-centered and focused on ourselves, and we never take the time to help someone out. And I think um Irena defeats that, and shows that little, I mean, she does great actions, but little actions can go a long way. Whether it's, when she heard about the bombings that were going to happen, she then informed people, and saved not only the dozen of Jews in the basement, but like thousands others by informing them. And so it's a powerful line, but it's a very egocentric way of thinking.
Yeah, it seems like one of those things that could only be said in like otherworldly circumstances and taken with any seriousness, because this is obviously like one of those moments in history that I think everybody was just scrambling and trying to survive in the best way they knew how.
Mhm.
And yet, and this is one of the things I love about her character. There's a sense of empowerment within her, and there's a line drawn later on in the film between saving a life of surviving and living.
Mhm.
And what do you think that difference is? How do you feel about that distinction?
I think she's spot on when she says it. Like, surviving is not living. Life is about, I mean, so many things. It's about, being healthy and happy, but a life in constant fear or agony or in pain, um, is not a life, which is, why unfortunately a lot of people take their own lives, because they have to go through that, which is very unfortunate. Um and I think that's what's so sad, is to think about, the Holocaust. I think he took away a lot of lives physically, but like she said, I think he took a lot of lives also by forcing people to live, in such miserable circumstances. That's also a form of life taking. And so I think that's also what's important to her. She's like, if we just hide and escape what's coming, we're still letting him win in a way, because he's still taking what's important in the basics of life away. So we're still letting him win. And I think that's why even though for her it's important to not only save them, but offer them to the best of her capability of a life that's worth living as well.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I mean, for you, we spoke with Louise about shooting the film and stepping into that world physically as you were shooting. What was that experience like for you? Literally stepping into history, both now and in the past at the same time.
Yeah, it felt, I mean, very, very special. I think, it just helped me so much to get into character, because it just felt every day so real. Because it was real. We were shooting right next to the border to Ukraine. So we had,
Yeah.
soldiers at our hotel, and refugees. And so it was a constant reminder of why we were doing this movie and the importance of doing it. Um, and also just, a reminder of how fortunate also I am to live in a country that's so peaceful, but that at the end of the day, realities like that aren't that far away and aren't that out of touch. And so, um, being so close to it, and then walking on set every day and seeing and walking onto sets that had existed. Like, the villa that we were shooting in existed back then, was built back then. And so to be in such realistic circumstances was just, slap in the face, and also, really helped me understand more what Irena was going through every day.
And forgive me, you don't need to answer this if it's too personal, but I'm wondering if there's anything that you learned about yourself by stepping into her shoes.
I think it just opened up my eyes to the fact that a little goes a long way. I think in general, we tend to think that one person can't really make a difference because there's so many of us, and how am I going to help? I'm so little, and I don't have an impact in this world, but that we do, and it doesn't have to be as heroic as what Irena did. I think it can be a compliment. I think it could be, taking the time to listen to someone one day, or just helping someone with something, out of pure, just to help, just to be kind, out of pure kindness. And I think that can affect someone, and then they will want in return to affect someone else. And I think those little actions have a ripple effect and can achieve something that's way bigger than we'd ever think. And so I try to live with that as a constant reminder that I can make a difference.
Absolutely. And certainly that's what, like you said, this ripple effect. Like she has these otherworldly, I keep saying otherworldly. She's in this incredible position, and yet she still finds a way to help those she can, however she can. And I think that's an incredible story to tell,
Yeah,
especially in these times.
yeah, absolutely.
Honestly, Sophie, it's a wonderful film and you're wonderful in it. What do you hope audiences take away from their time with Irena's Vow?
Um, I mean, a little bit like I mentioned earlier, that what makes us beautiful as a society is our differences, and we should just try to embrace them, and learn from each other, and how, try to always see the best in life and the best in people. Um, and I think if we, are more empathetic and are more curious and are less judgmental, um, we would live in such a more beautiful and flourishing community, and in country, and world, in general. And I think that's what I take away when I watch this movie.
Honestly, it is such a pleasure to chat with you. You do a wonderful job in it. Thank you so much for the time, and have a great day.
Thank you. You too.